Welcome back to Overtime here on WOTM. Mark, we get these announcements of retirement usually in the early part of training camp. We have another one today. DeMaryius Thomas, formerly of the Broncos and the Jets, announced that he is retiring effective immediately. As you think about DeMaryius Thomas and his career, obviously you tie him to the Broncos. He also ended up playing for the Jets. Was a big time playmaker, a big body, kind of, to me, one of the pioneers in changing what that position was. You see guys like Mike Evans and another big receivers out there, kind of hybrid tight end receivers. What's your thoughts on DeMaryius Thomas, as he calls it, a career after 10 seasons in the NFL?
He's like a tweener.
Yeah.
He had the body of a tight end. He had the speed of a wide receiver. And he first came to my attention a year. Peyton Manning threw 55 touchdowns. He had an outstanding year. Him and Eric Decker, two of the key wide receivers for Peyton. But despite all that, we had just talked about this. The thing he's always going to be remembered for was catching that overtime, the touchdown game winner against Pittsburgh that guess who threw? Mr. Jacksonville Jaguar and Florida Panther himself, Florida Gator himself, Florida Panther. I'm thinking hockey right here. So I think that really is what people remember about a key play. It was a huge play, one of those plays in NFL playoff history that stands out, like it goes to the post, or Marcus Allen's touchdown run in the Super Bowl. A great play that stands out that for Broncos fans in a season that was absolutely miraculous. Probably one of the worst teams to ever make the playoffs. Beating a team like Pittsburgh at home, great moment, and Thomas was the benefactor of a Tebow pass, if you can believe that.
We always do this, and I think it's a little bit unfair, but we'll have to do it anyways. 10 seasons in the league, 724 catches, over 9,700 yards, and 63 touchdowns. Is that enough to get him a gold jacket and go to the Hall of Fame?
As a wide receiver? No.
Yeah.
I don't think so. As a tight end? Yeah.
I was going to say, if they could kind of merge him to be listed as a tight end, do you think that's enough?
Maybe. But see, you have guys like Lynn Swann who don't have these type of numbers.
Right.
But played big in big games, okay?
Exactly.
And they stand out for those reasons. Then you have guys like John Stallworth, who was better than Lynn Swann, had great numbers, and really had to work his way to the Hall of Fame. So I think there's a place for Thomas. These are certainly good enough numbers. Did he do it for a long enough stretch of time?
Right.
He had the benefactor of having Peyton with him during Peyton's best years, so he had a couple things working for him. But if you look at just the numbers part of it, for a wide receiver in today's game, I don't think it's enough. If they kind of make him out to be this new breed of offensive player, then I think he might have a shot.
One of the things we talked about when Julian Edelman retired, and this debate came up again, was like, well, slot receivers don't get into the Hall of Fame. And then you're like, Hines Ward didn't play, and he as good as he was, he's not still in the Hall of Fame.
No.
And that was kind of reason number one why Julian wouldn't get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And I think you're also talking about guys like DeMaryius Thomas on the other end of this. It's like, well, if we could slot him as a tight end, he would get in.
Right.
But as a receiver, he wouldn't get in. I think that the lines have been so bent for receivers to get in and to not get in. It's a slim group of guys, unless you're Terrell Owens. You're a big body that ends up having the yards, that ends up being the number one for a long period of time. That's the only way that you can get in.
Well, the other thing about Edelman is he won a Super Bowl MVP.
Right.
And he was like a 5'10" white guy. I mean, there's not too many of those guys in the league that can catch passes over the middle. I mean, call it what it is. I mean, that's a rare thing. So he had those things going for him. Hines Ward, I loved. Great player, clutch player. He really should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
He also played very well in Super Bowl, and the Steelers Super Bowl wins, won over where he really should have got the MVP against Seattle. So Hines Ward, to me, is very underrated. He was a character guy in a very character locker room with Jerome Bettis and a great Steelers team. So I have a lot of respect for Hines Ward. I think he absolutely should be in the Hall of Fame.
Exactly. I think so
Georgia
as well.
guy.
Exactly, yeah. From University of Georgia, played a little quarterback as well, showing his talents. And then speaking of that big game that you talked about with Tebow, it's one of the highlights there on the screen right now. Coming up, or actually not coming up next, let's talk about it right now. Let's flip over to the National Hockey League.
You had to.
And
you had to do this.
we talked about it a little bit last week, and your boys actually up against the Game 5 at the time. We were like, hey, can they push it to 7? They ended up pushing it to 7 against the defending Stanley Cup champions and the Tampa Bay Lightning. However, in Game 7, back in Tampa, it's a situation where they don't get it done, and so now it's the Tampa Bay Lightning against the Montreal Canadiens for the championship. You're seeing on your screen the upcoming the series, the games, and the schedule for that, and where those games will be played. Your hurt thoughts. Well, actually, we will talk about your hurt thoughts.
You don't see me crying right now.
Well, how disappointing is it for the Islanders, or is it something to build off of going into next year?
It is something to build off of. They have a lot of young players. The thing that upsets me is you don't get too many shots at this. They got to the conference finals last year and they lost. I didn't think they were better though at the end of the series. Tampa Bay's very good, and you got to remember, during the series, they outscored the Islanders 12-0 at one point.
Right.
So you don't do that if you're not better. The Islanders got kind of lucky when they came back from the dead to win Game 6, but that's what a gritty team does.
Exactly.
And then in Game 7, the thing that really frustrated me the most was only 18 shots on net, but they were absolutely suffocated by a great defensive team. And there you go against Montreal, only 59 points during the regular season, the fewest of any team in the playoffs. They beat the Maple Leafs after, you want to talk about a cursed loser franchise. That's the Maple Leafs.
Right.
Up 3-1, they can't put them away. Montreal goes 11-2 the rest of the way and beats a very good Vegas team to get to the finals. Now they have a shot to win yet another Stanley Cup. They only have like 1 million of them up in Montreal.
Tampa, as soon as Tom Brady went to Tampa, I think the Lightning got a championship last year.
Yeah,
the Bucks got a Super
Tom
Bowl.
Brady.
And
Come
the
to New York, Tom.
And the Lightning got another championship there as well. Very quickly, who do you like in this series? Game 1 is tonight. Who do you like overall to bring back the Lord Stanley's Cup?
Okay, I didn't think Montreal was good enough to beat Vegas. Montreal is very fast, and they do Canadian-like things. Carey Price is playing outstanding. I'll go with the hot goaltender. Even though Tampa's better, I'll go with the hot goaltender. Plenty of times Montreal, 86 they won with Patrick Roy. 93 they won with Roy again, beat a good Los Angeles Kings team. This is another year where I think they can come out of nowhere and win.
So playoff experience doesn't mean much for Tampa Bay?
No, now it's Canadians. The Canadians have invented playoff experience, even if it wasn't these guys.
Very, very true. Game 1 is tonight. Game 2 on Wednesday. And see Game 3 on Friday back over in Montreal. It should be interesting to see what the crowds look like there over in Canada. Their COVID restrictions are a little bit tighter than they are here down in the United States.
Although I wouldn't put it past me just because I'm mad at Tampa Bay that I wouldn't pick them.
Exactly. I like it.
Count the bitterness factor.
We'll see how it all shakes out. Game 2 coming up on Wednesday. Coming up next here on Overtime, we will close up shop here on a Monday edition.